Okay, so it looks like we have all of our attendees in room, and for those of you joining us online, welcome. My name is Dan Bromberg. I'm the Director of Academic Programs for the Carsey School of Public Policy. I'm joined today by Mike Nikitas. Mike is going to be discussing his class that he offers in the Masters of Public Policy program. Before we get to Mike, I'm going to give you a brief overview of the Masters in Public Policy, and then we'll jump over to a conversation with Mike Nikitas. So just to give you an overview of the Carsey School academic programs, the Master in Public Policy is one of 3 academic programs we offer at the Carsey School. We also offer a Master of Public Administration and a Master in Community Development. Along with the Masters in Public Policy, we actually offer a dual degree where students can get both their MPP degree and a Juris Doctorate degree. So within 4 years, they could accomplish law school and an MPP program. That comes at a reduced rate for both of those programs. So that's a nice opportunity for those students interested in coupling their public policy background with a legal background. So the Masters in Public Policy program, really what we try to focus here on are skills to make a difference when you're engaged in public policy, how to make that impact. We offer 2 different tracks in the public policy program. We offer a track for strategy and communication or policy analysis. The strategy and communication track is really something that we consider quite unique to Masters of Public Policy programs. Most public policy programs do have the analytics and analysis that our program offers. That said, many do not offer the strategy and communication. So the questions associated with that are really, well, what do you do with that data once you have it? How do you put together that strategic communication plan? How do you work through media outlets to actually get policy moving forward? And today our conversation with Mike will focus on some of those ideas as he teaches one of those track courses. We also offer our students a DC colloquium. In that, we spend 1 week in Washington, DC, and we have meetings throughout the entire day. They typically start early in the morning and end late into the evening. And we're meeting with folks from the White House to government affairs people, to people on the Hill, to advocates, to folks that are dealing with campaigns. And really, it is the whole ecosystem of policymaking in the DC area. So it's a pretty special experience for our students. They gain a lot of insight into the policymaking process, and often they're career-defining experiences for our students, where they then make decisions as to what they want to pursue once they graduate from the program. There's also an internship experience and a capstone experience, which allows students to get further experiential opportunities while completing their degree. All of our classes are offered in Durham, New Hampshire, and almost all of them are offered in person. So here are the track courses. So just an overview, and I'm happy to talk about these offline should anyone have any specific questions. But you basically have a handful of core classes, so 5 core classes. You then have 4 experiential learning classes, and then you have your track classes and your electives. The nice part about the MPP is that it could be coupled with any one of the graduate certificates across the University of New Hampshire. So here's just a handful of those graduate certificates, and we've actually created various curriculum maps. So what you can do is you could complete your Masters of Public Policy and at the same time pursue a graduate certificate in a specific area of your interest. So in here, we look at assessment and evaluation, or child welfare, or data science. And through the elective opportunities, you're able to fill in those courses and then graduate with both the graduate certificate, say in data science, and your Masters of Public Policy. It doesn't take you any more time, and it doesn't cost you any more money, but you're able to get those 2 credentials while you're studying with us in Durham. The other opportunity to accelerate your education is through our accelerated MPP program. So the way that this works is that for any undergraduate students at the University of New Hampshire, you're able to dual count both undergraduate courses with your graduate courses. You're able to count up to 12 credits. So that means 4 classes that you take during your senior year as an undergraduate at UNH. You go count towards your graduate degree. and you would work with your graduate advisor to identify those courses. It decreases the time you spend in the Master's of Public Policy program and allows you to finish the degree within 1 year's time. Here's a simple admissions application checklist, so something to think about as you're applying. And we have this checklist listed on our website, and any of our admissions advisors would be happy to help you as you work your way through the admissions process. Tuition and funding. So in-state tuition is about $31,000 and out-of-state tuition is about $34,000. These tuition dollars are frequently offset by Carsey School scholarships, MPP fellowships, and any of our education awards that we have with our partnered organizations. So for example, we have partnered with AmeriCorps and with Peace Corps. We've partnered with the City of Concord and any number of other organizations, both across the region and national organizations. So there are a number of ways to offset that full tuition cost. And we work with you to make sure that our program is accessible and that everyone is able to have access, who wants to attend. We will work with you on that. A few different career paths that I would just mention. So we have someone who is working for the Workforce Housing Coalition. So Sarah is the executive director. We have folks who are state representatives. We have folks who are loan program officers. And the truth is we have people working in State House in New Hampshire. We have people working in Washington, D.C., in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, in all various types of positions. And we'd be happy to connect you with one of our alum and talk to you about those career opportunities. The nice part about coming and getting your MPP at UNH is you also get to have frequent and close conversation with our faculty. Mike represents, one of the best in our program as far as someone who has had a career of practice and has, the experience to help students kind of figure out that path and moving forward. So I'll let Mike introduce himself. So you could just take a look on the screen here as far as all of Mike's accolades and what Mike has kind of been through. And Mike teaches the media strategy and skills course. So as I mentioned, this is one of the courses in our strategy and communication track. And this is typically running during the spring term, which this year runs from February 1st to May 11th. So without further ado, let me introduce Mike Nikitas. And Mike, thanks so much for joining us today. So I'm wondering if we could kind of just start with you and kind of get a sense of your career and, how you got to this position now, and both teaching for UNH and you're now consulting. So a little bit of the background and history.
Well, thank you very much, Dan. It was really interesting to see your presentation because I learned a couple new things about the Carsey School. Wonderful to see that sort of 30,000-foot overview of the program and where it fits in the pantheon of public policy programs around the country. And it is unique. And I think the strategic communications part of it is actually a very meaningful and interesting part of it as well. As far as what brought me to UNH, not to go too far back, but actually to go far back, I'm a UNH graduate. I was a poli-sci graduate, graduated several eras ago, and was at that time involved and first got into news at WUNH Radio. I was the news director at WUNH Radio. And from there, I began my career, a 36-year career in news every single day, working in the San Francisco Bay Area in radio at KSAN and KUIC Radio, covered a lot of interesting stories there. Then moved into a smaller TV station in Colorado, a larger TV station, a sort of medium market, similar to maybe a Portland, Maine or Providence, Rhode Island, in South Bend, Indiana. Worked there for 6 years. And then I got an agent and got married and did some other things and ended up in Boston, where I was for 26 years at NECN and NBC 10 Boston. Covered a lot of stories during that time. Interviewed, hundreds, if not thousands of people. And it's the skills that I gained, I think, from that side of this equation that I bring and try to bring to this class at the Carsey School. Since 2017, the end of 2017, almost 3 years now since I left the news business full time, I have been running my Nikitas Communications firm, which I sort of started before that when I was still in news to a much smaller degree. And what I do is I work with people in all fields, government, business, particularly politics, and work on them for some of these quote unquote softer skills, communication skills, to get their message out, to be the best communicators that they can be. And I bring a lot of that to this class. And so you're getting sort of, I think, that real world experience that I'm teaching, in the real world here at Carsey School in Media Strategy and Skills. And we talk about all sorts of things to forward your message. How can you get your message? Part of the class is to come up with a public policy issue that you are advocating for or against. And then we go through the steps on how you can get traction for that issue in media. And we talk about, you learn a lot about public relations. You learn a lot about speaking. I put people through mock interviews. We learn some basic communication strategies on how you interact on camera. Things have changed a lot, as we know, on Zoom now. People are communicating on Zoom so much more, Ring Central, Skype, whatever, what have you. And those skills are important. Most people seem to be getting it, but a lot of people still aren't. And those skills are ones that I think I learned being on television for so many years. And they're really important skills to connecting with people and, again, getting interest and traction for your public policy issue. I think one of the challenges right now for anybody in public policy, or no matter what field, if they're trying to get interest, is we've got one story or maybe two that's taking all the air out of media coverage, and that's the pandemic. So how do you get your message out in the midst of that? And certainly we have an election going on right now, and we're not sure what's going to happen. But it's a different environment now. 2020 has changed a lot of things, and I like to think that this course is very reflective towards that. They're reflexive. There is a lot that is, I think, similar and basic, fundamentals that you still can't forget in communicating and developing strategies and tactics to, again, get your public policy message out there in the universe and get people to listen, because that's the bottom line. What it's all about, you want to convince and change people's minds and get people to your way of thinking.
Yeah, awesome. That's really helpful. I'm curious how this differentiates from just kind of a traditional communications class and integrating that public policy and that policy goal, into the course and those objectives. Is there a distinction here that we're working with, within the policy sphere? Does that change how you go about teaching this and helping students communicate?
Well, to some degree. I mean, whether you've got a product launch for a drug company, or you're trying to get people to, sign on to term limits, some of it is fundamentally the same. But the media outlets you go after, how much you use social media, what kinds of social media you use will be different. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of it's the same, but some of it is different, and we try to, steer them in the right direction. But at the same time, give them the overall skills to get traction for an interest in their issue. Yeah.
So if I'm a new student kind of coming into the MPP program, why is your course important? I think, what we said at what I had said during the PowerPoint is we frequently see programs kind of skipping this whole part of the strategic communication part that we really appreciate and we really respect. From your perspective, why is this important for an MPP student to have this skill set?
Well, I think that communication skills, whether external through the media or internal in your entity, and a lot of people forget the internal part, are equally important. And people who don't give speeches, when we get to that point where we're giving speeches in front of groups, don't do podcasts, don't communicate through the media, don't speak to their employees and their stakeholders in a meaningful way, are the ones who invariably flatline in their careers, and their entities do too. And to me, these are uber important in today's universe. And so that's the short answer. I think these skills are integral to success in any field.
Yeah, great. I think that's really helpful. And I think, people always say, look, you got to be able to write, you have to be able to speak. And I think we're slowly seeing to get that message across using these various technologies, using social media and communicating online, especially at this point, seems key to that success. Thinking about our students as they move from taking these courses to moving into the workforce, is there anything particular that you think they get from this class, or any paths that they could follow out of this class into the workforce that would make sense?
I think that these skills are all immediately applicable, not only in their coursework, but in the real world. And we have had people in the class who have gone directly into, and them, directly into jobs in the public policy field, whether it's working for a senator, whether it's working at a city or town government. These people gain skills that will, I think, immediately help them. And it's going to help them today in their coursework and in the private or public sectors later on. I think we've seen it time and again. And to me, for example, I'm teaching these skills in the real world now. So if people haven't had them before now, well, then something's lacking. We're arming them with things that I think will take them into real world jobs. One other thing about this course, which I have tried to do, and I think has really been valuable from the feedback I've gotten from students, is almost every week, and this will be the third year that I've taught this course, I've had a guest speaker come in, someone who has used these skills or in a field that these students could see themselves in. I've had the mayor of Manchester in, I've had people who work for Eversource Public Affairs, John Hancock for Public Affairs. I had a man come in who was the head of public affairs at MGM at the time of the Mandalay Bay shootings to talk about crisis communications. We've had many strategic communications people come in that I've come across and that I've had contact with, and former colleagues, people I've worked with, the former head of communications for the Big Dig in Boston. And people don't even remember what the Big Dig was at this point, but those are the kinds of people who have to communicate what an entity, for example, what the highway department and what Boston was doing. She was also public affairs for the police department in Boston, and came in and talked to the students about the kinds of things that were important to her, the kinds of things that people thought of when she talked to, that resonated with the various stakeholders. How to identify who your audience is. Those fundamental skills, I think, are ones that these people who I bring in as guest speakers can really share, and people can, it's accessible then for the students. They can understand this is a person who uses these skills. This is how these skills can be applied, and I could be in their place.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm so glad you brought up, the various careers that people are in. It really does cut across the board, right? This isn't just folks that are always out in front, talking to the press or talking to, the media. These skills cut across organizations, whether you're at the local hospital, you're at City Hall, or you're the director of an advocacy firm, right, where you would clearly think this is important. All of these skills are necessary in these various careers. And you're right, we see our students go on and use them. And the truth is, use them effectively, right? We just graduated someone who's a director of communications for a nice size advocacy firm. And the skills that she took from your class are, certainly on display right now. And it's really great to see.
And that's great to hear. For me, it's gratifying for me to hear.
Yeah, I think this is the goal, right? This is the goal, that we're trying to get these students, policy ready, and to see them get out there and be policy ready is always great to see. The other aspect of this is that regardless, these tools are going to come into play no matter what they do, right? And I think you've kind of spoken to that quite a bit, and it's just such an important aspect of being a professional, and not only being a professional, but being a professional within the public eye. And public policy making is always in the public eye, and being able to manage that presence and that public is very important. So Mike, thank you for all that you do for our students. Thank you for putting this course together. I think it's invaluable. And I'm really excited that you're going to be teaching it again in the spring, and I can't wait to see our next round of students come through. So thank you.
You are welcome, Dan. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here today and to teach the course. I think the program is truly a meaningful and unique one, and I'm looking forward to the spring.
Great. And if there are any questions out there, we can stick around for a few minutes and answer any questions. But if not, either one of us, we're happy to take some questions offline. You could certainly filter them through our academic team. But if anything pops up and you want to throw them into the Q&A or the chat, please feel free to do so for the next couple minutes. And we're joined by our colleague, Robin Husledge, and Robin could help kind of filter some of those as they come through.
Hello,
there
Robin.
She is.
So,
hi, Michael.
While we wait for folks, we're in this unbelievable time right now, the last 5 days before an election. And, whether, students should watch, I think, one of the things that fascinates me every day is how does this candidate message this? We're seeing, obviously an amazing once in a lifetime election. And, we talked, quite frequently about how different candidates, whether it was in the primaries, New Hampshire this past year, we had all these primary candidates come through, and New Hampshire's such a unique place in American politics. So you get to evaluate how they handle the messaging, how they, interact, not only content-wise, but how they interact as individuals. So, we're in another phase now. We're at the general election, and we know these two candidates pretty well, but I still am fascinated every day to see how they interact in their very different styles, and how they are trying to get out the vote and hopefully, win this election in these last few days.
Yeah, it's a great point. You also get to see how the media companies play a role in some of this, right? And, there was just opportunity to watch some of our top executives from our social media companies on Capitol Hill and responding to some of the regulatory and legislative issues that might arise. So yeah, it is fascinating to watch.
It's a fascinating.
Looks like go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I did not get to see, I guess Jack Dorsey, the head of Twitter, was on yesterday or testified, I believe yesterday. I have not read anything about it today yet. I knew that he was going to testify, so I think that's going to be something. I'm on this program called Beat the Press in Boston at WGBH. They now rebranded a couple of weeks ago to GBH. And that's on Fridays, and I'll be on tomorrow. We'll be talking about some of these issues and other issues as well. Things like Borat. I don't know if either of you saw the new Borat film. Robin's laughing. I think she did see it. Even that is a teachable moment, and certainly surfaces certain things about our culture. And it's interesting to me, fascinating that a British person would come in and do something like that. And then to evaluate how this young actress, Hungarian actress, this woman from Hungary, Maria Bakalova, handled things. It's all goes into the mix. And they're great things to talk about and observe, and they tell us a lot about us. And I think these are the kinds of things every week when we have the class, we always spent the first half hour or so, what's going on with your policy? How was it covered? Who covered it? Was it fair? What, those kinds of things. And then they were free to bring up other stories that were being covered in media, and how they were being covered, and evaluate them for messaging when messaging was involved. All those sorts of things. Right now, we're in a period where those things you can't even turn around for 5 minutes, and you're just bombarded with it. I'm getting weird. I'm getting fatigued. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, there certainly is no lack of resources to bring into the classroom right now. No. Which is great, from one perspective, but obviously it is exhausting from another perspective. But look, this is a great opportunity for our students to analyze, what's happening in the world around them, with some guidance and with some, prudence, and they could really look at this with an analytical lens, which is great, and I'm glad that we get to offer that to them. So I'm going to bring our presentation to an end now. So once again, thank you, Mike, so much for jumping on. And for anyone out there who has any questions, please feel free to shoot us an email, get in touch with us. We're happy to support you and help you out through this process.